Woodford Reserve.
My name is Michael Goldberg.
Let's talk about how you prepare for the interview.
Hey, LinkedIn Live Nation, this is Michael Goldberg coming to you live from Brookhaven Country Club in good old Dallas, Texas. Let's hear it.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, hope you're doing groovy today. It's Thursday. It's time for the Job Seeker Hotline Show. So my guest today is All-Star Sourcer, founder, creator of Greatness, and he has brought Batman to life better than Val Kilmer, Michael Keaton.
You started with a really low bar there. That was like, you went like...
Well, founder and CEO of Better Job Fit. She is one of my amazing coaches. Wait, where are you? Why am I double? What?
Thank you for bringing your own verve and spunk to this show.
Hey there, we're taking a brisk weekend walk with Michael Goldberg, LinkedIn content creator herself. Ms. Judy Fox, welcome to the show.
Woo!
Hey everyone, this is Michael Goldberg with tip number 4 of 10 tips in 10 days.
I have got a great guest on tonight, whatever. Well, of course, now I'm the big picture, and that moved. All right. Well, hello, everybody. It is nice to see you. This is Michael Goldberg, and welcome to the LinkedIn Live Lunch Hour. My guest today at the lunch table is Miss Teresa Nordstrom, and she is one of the better recruiters and recruitment consultants out there. And just, we have become best friends. Yesterday it became official. She put my name into her cell phone, and I put her name into my cell phone. So, Teresa, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. After
Excellent.
getting all my technology set up.
Yeah, it was pretty funny to have watch Teresa, who's normally this calm, cool, collected woman who just, and all of a sudden I hear this loud crash, and it's like, all right, we're gonna have a good show today. Right. So, it doesn't matter. You're here, and that's the important thing.
Yeah.
And welcome. And I want to share. So, I want to share before we, as you're telling people what you do, I'm going to ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself. I'm actually going to show your website that you just launched.
It's not even really officially launched.
It's not. Well, this is a soft launch.
Yeah.
Why not? Dun, da, da, da. Yeah. So the name of your company is Talent Company Incorporated. It used to be called Nordstrom Talent until somebody got upset about that. I wonder who.
They didn't get upset. Actually, they really didn't get upset. It's just
didn't they give you some bad reviews or something like that?
Yeah. Actually, first of all, I got 27 of their employees that say they work for me. Even some of the recruiters say they work for me. I'm like, you work for Nordstrom's, but yeah. And honestly, I just had a lot of people say, oh, they reach out to me and they say they applied for XYZ job. And I'm like, yeah, that's not my job. So it really ended up just being one that, didn't make sense. And I really kind of wanted to expand not only recruiting, but expand beyond recruiting. So made sense.
Yeah. So this is our website. So while we're giving the folks the chance to take a look at these great screenshots, especially of the bearded man, I have so many questions about him. That guy, many questions. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I have been in HR. Well, I just say over 20 years, right? And we're not counting anymore. So I, spent years at Best Buy Company. I helped them go international. I've, helped sell a startup. And one of the things through all my years, I always really ended up kind of doing talent. Well, I wasn't in talent acquisition. By the way, I've never actually been a recruiter, oddly, in the business. But here's what I did. I was, as an HR leader, I always solved recruiting problems. I believe as an HR leader, we solve business problems. So I've done district, regional HR leader positions for like Conagra Foods. But, about 4.5 years ago, I ended up going off on my own, founding Nordstrom Talent. And honestly, I've done a great job of having all my own clients, and I haven't had to do any business development because all my work has come from my former relationships, and I've recruited for different companies, could be startup, could be healthcare and all that. But what really I'm doing a lot of now is that I recruit through really innovative ways. Recruitment marketing, I'm a big believer that you should actually recruit through employee referral before you actually use a recruiter. And yes, I am a recruiter. And I think you should do really creative ads, but I would love to really help companies, and I like to do this, is really bring up their HR and recruiting teams to be really progressive. So that's a little bit about what I'm doing in the near future. So
That's great. And so, one of the things that, or a few of the things we're going to talk about today, it's actually been a burning question on a lot of job seekers' minds.
yeah.
And you and I were talking about this last night. And, the burning question is how do we develop these relationships with recruiters, whether they be in the agency or the corporate recruiting world? And so what's real important is we're going to try to answer some of that and get some opinions, because it's just, there are so many job seekers. I think it's well over 33 million job seekers after unemployment since mid-March, which is just unbelievable. But a lot of people go, well, what's the best way to connect with recruiters and to get noticed by recruiters? And so we're going to talk about some of those things today. And so I hope that you can have your questions lined up for us in the comments. Be sure to hit that arrow to the right and share that we're live, especially if you want to have that question answered. So let's kind of jump in. You ready?
Yeah, you bet.
You sure?
Yeah, I am. And one thing about me is I'm extremely transparent, and so definitely I will be very transparent, and I sometimes I'll definitely err to the candidate side, and I do the right thing for the candidate. So
well, and let's start off with that question. I think that's a very good trait for what I call the non-lazy recruiters that are out there to have, which is to actually give a darn about their candidates and their hiring managers and the executives that they're working for, right? So what are some of the things that you're seeing out there that of where we have to deliver better customer service to continue to improve recruiting's reputation? What are some of the things that you suggest in terms of keeping people top of mind?
So do you mean from a third-party recruiting or internal recruiting?
Both.
Okay.
Just both.
Got it. So I think one of the things is people always complain about feedback. I don't hear anything, type thing. So first of all, as recruiters, we're inundated with applicants, right? Here's one of the things is I think we can give candid feedback. Now, candidates, you got to be ready for it. I always say feedback is a gift, and I've done training on that. I give my candidates some really honest feedback, and sometimes I have a ton of candidates that will reach out to me via LinkedIn, and I'll be like, hey, I'll give them some like quick feedback as to maybe, I won't say your resume is no way close, but I will give them some realistic feedback. So I think one thing is giving people feedback. Now, I do want to be realistic from the recruiter standpoint that candidates, you can't expect to get that feedback from every job. But if you interviewed recruiters, you know what, give them honest feedback. And I think that is one thing that we can do. So, yeah.
Well, you and I are very much cut from the same cloth,
Yeah.
in that we are very direct with our candidates.
Mhm.
We're direct with our people if they try to present a purple unicorn to us.
Yeah.
We're going to look at them and go, really, you want to go there? And every dot has to be, every single check mark marked
Yeah.
off, right? I think having a direct approach and being open and honest, the way that we do with our candidates, is so important. So I appreciate and applaud you for that. All right, now let's jump into that burning question that everybody has. Whether you're a corporate recruiter, whether you're an agency recruiter, I always get asked, and even on our job seeker hotline show that we did yesterday, we got asked like 3 or 4 different ways. what is the best way to build a relationship with the recruiter? How would you answer that position? Because we could also go on a tangent and talk about something else that we'll probably end up talking about.
I know.
So lack of response. But what are the ways? What would be kind of your suggestions on the way we build those recruiting relationships?
Yeah. So I think first of all, you need to think about which recruiters you want to build relationships and be realistic. So I think it's about what is your skill set and does that recruiter realistically fill jobs in your area? I get referred to tons of people that, honestly, I can't help. Here's what I do. And by the way, I think recruiters can do. Just be honest with them. Hey, Sally, I'll just be transparent with you. I likely can't help you. and instead of like leading them on, I'm honest. So I think first of all, ask them up front. Hey, Teresa, you see my resume, and a lot of recruiters may not respond, but I think you can do research on them and see what jobs do they have posted on their website. So first of all, make sure you're targeting them and see what kind of jobs they fill. I think that when you're talking to the recruiters and that, some recruiters, I've struggled a little bit in the recruiting industry because there's such a wide variety of recruiters, of ones that are awesome and ones that are, I call checklist recruiters. And if you have a phone, you can be a recruiter for the last few years, but it's like, which ones are willing to build a relationship? So, if you meet me, you're probably going to know I'm pretty open to building a relationship. So reach out to those people. And that's one way. One of the things I was thinking about of some of the people that I've had great relationships with is when I do give them feedback, they're very open to it. And honestly, not everyone is. So I think that's one thing. One of the best things I was thinking about, so I don't know how familiar people are. Maybe I shouldn't assume this because a lot of people are new to maybe looking for a role. So a lot of recruiters, and this is more external, just so you know, but actually even internal, maybe this way. So you guys, you gals, I'm saying that in general, recruiters, we're not great at reading the entire resume. Surprise. But I will know what I'm looking for. When you send me an email, don't send me tons. I want to know three or four, like rock star things that you did. Here's the deal. First of all, for an external recruiter, if you do a great job, they're going to use that to pitch you somewhere. So summarize those things. And I think that is one way that, here's the deal. You need to help me help you. And that's one thing I think that you can do. I'll stop there. I mean, there's other things I think you can do, but it's a lot about finding the right recruiter, because some people, there's no way in heck you're going to build a relationship with some recruiters. I'll be honest with you. They're looking to only fill that job, and when they have a job, they want to talk to you.
Well, and that's what I've told people. It's like the only time that they're interested in you is when they have a reason to be interested in you, which is making money. And I don't mean that meanly. It's just it's the truth, and it's why recruiting has a poor reputation right now, especially on the agency side. But look, agency recruiters do a good job when there are many good agency recruiters.
Absolutely.
I'm in a recruiting mastermind made up of agency recruiters who I think very highly of. And I would trust them and refer my clients to any of them as I would to you, because it's that trust and that relationship building, right? From an internal perspective, sorry about the dogs, the internal recruiting perspective on the corporate side, what are some of the things that you've seen work where you've had to go build relationships with those contacts inside the organization? Because I think that's what people want to do. You send them, information. What are things that you can send them that they go, okay, I'm going to remember this person? How do you become memorable to these recruiters, whether or not they have a position for you?
One, they're so over. I have to put my heart out to the internal recruiters, because there's not a ton of corporate HR teams, recruiting teams that are staffed well. I mean, so just so you know, the number of recs that these recruiters are holding is is horrible, honestly. I mean, I've seen recruiters have up to 80 positions. That is,
I've seen it worse. I've seen it
that is, I
120.
mean, you can't do your job. That is just, honestly, that's stupidity. That's just ridiculous. Let's not go on to that factor. So first of all, and they're supposed to be able to recruit. So with that being said, I think, so I have this gentleman. I love him. I mean, I want him to find a job so bad. And the poor guy had lost his role before COVID, but this gentleman, he has such a positive attitude. Every probably 3 weeks, he sends an email out with, "Hey, this is what I'm doing." It's like almost like a networking email, and he has a positive attitude. He shares a couple things that he's working on. He doesn't share where he's interviewing with, but he's like, "Hey, I just want to stay top of mind," type thing. I think that, look and see if are they active on LinkedIn, type of thing. And I think that, you can ask for feedback. And again, it really does. I think there's so much that depends on the other individual. And I hate to give that general answer, but I have worked with a lot of internal and external recruiters where, one, they've been so overwhelmed. But in general, I think it's just like, I think one of the things you and I talked about was how often can you follow up? I actually know someone, I mean, this person was like annoying the heck out of every recruiter in town. And I mean, literally every Friday he would email everyone. It's like, "Oh my gosh, you can't do that." And then he'd call.
Was it a blast or was it a personalized email?
It was personalized, but honestly, I mean, he needed a job. He wanted a job so bad. But I think the thing is that, you do have to trust at some point. If you've been declined by them, there's a reason why. So at some point it's like, "Hey, you know what? It's being authentic and going, Michael, I know you've declined me for this role, and maybe you didn't get an opportunity to be declined, but really trying to get that feedback from them and being authentic about it." It's like, "Michael," it's like, "Hey, I'd love to get feedback from you, even if it's, it might be it might be challenging for me to take. I've got to get it." Because here's the deal. If you've been declined, there's a reason. And the likelihood that they're actually so if there's a candidate that I've declined and I'll be honest with you, they're going to know it. They're going to go, "Hey," I'm going to go, "Michael, this role wasn't right for you, but if I have another role, I'm going to tell them straight up they're going to be my next candidate."
But
right?
they're told that, they're told that all the time, Teresa. You know that.
Well, see, I don't tell them that crap. I mean,
oh boy.
I mean, I know. So let me think about that. I am so transparent. I know. I probably.
No,
Yeah.
we applaud you for that, and the people that are listening are
lead
applauding
some
you.
people on. I shouldn't say totally. I will. The people that I think are really truly great candidates for other ones, I'll give them that feedback. If they're not a quality candidate, I won't go, "Yeah, I'm going to call you next time."
Right. Yeah. No. But I think also that that the people, and the dog is going to bark again. That the people and the especially since the doorbell. Why ring the doorbell during a COVID crisis? We know something's going to be out there unless it's perishable. And of course, I'm waiting for my air shoes. There we go. Can you hear that? So anyway, where I was going was Kathleen Griffiths, who is watching live. Thank you, Kathleen. We appreciate that. As a good agent, well, let me get to her question first. She had a question and a comment. What are the legal challenges a hiring company has if they do get feedback and it isn't what prevents the feedback other than course of time? I'm trying to understand that. Yeah. Do you understand that question?
Is she asking if what so if a
like
company
what are the
gives
legal
feedback, what legal challenges that they what they have? Yeah. I think so is the feedback, I mean, am I giving I can give an example where I think the company might have been in trouble. I need to be honest with you.
No,
but I think that's what, I think that so specific issues, I think is, I mean, really, if you're not discriminating on one of the core discrimination areas, race, sex, religion, all those different areas, then we should be okay. And I believe that we have all been so scared from our past. Like, I mean, it seems like about 15 years ago, I don't know, I lose track. I'm getting older now, dang it. But it's like, we are afraid to give feedback now because of then. But yeah, I mean, if you're not discriminating on some of those factors, then you should be okay. But, I've had sometimes it's like if a candidate is, well, you don't fit the requirements, and yet they have all these requirements. And it's like, well, honestly, it could be age, and that's a whole nother factor. That's probably one of the biggest factors I see sometimes is, you don't have the right experience. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's play a game.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah. As long as it's not
Translate this if you haven't heard it 1,000 times. Yeah, you really have great experience, but you're just not a culture fit. Translate that. What's that mean?
Well, first, wait, this is awesome. Actually, I'm prepping for a video on culture fit. So first of all, I mean, the candidate is in a tough position right there because me, I'd probably be sassy and go, what do you mean by culture fit? Is your culture into the behaviors? Because that's what my recommendation would be is, I think the thing is there something I said or did, can you give me more feedback on that I didn't articulate, during the interview that made me a culture fit? It probably means that one of the managers didn't like you. You rubbed them the wrong way. I mean, to be honest with you, I've been in lots of these. I've been in an interview and it's like, yeah, how honest
Teresa, I'm going to call BS on that. What is it?
Yeah, they're in an interview. They're in an interview and Joe over here is like, he is not, I just don't like him. I mean, it could be that they freaking went to a different school. You know what I mean? I mean, seriously, that's part of it sometimes.
Well, and you referenced age. That's where I go when a guy like me at my age goes in and you look around and everybody's under 30 or 40 years of age, and they go, well, you're just not a cultural fit. Okay. What's that mean?
It can be any of those though.
Yeah, no, it could. But in general, I think a lot of the the workforce that's 40 plus that I've worked with it, they hear that and they immediately go, and you can lean on ageism as an excuse.
Yeah.
But it's the way you present yourself. It's getting out there. If people look at you and you have a touch of gray, that means you got some experience, and that's key, and it's crucial, right? If you let's play another game.
I wouldn't mind talking about the culture one quick though.
All right, go.
Just to go down that path a little bit. So because I think first of all, I think one of the things, and this is important. So there's a study that was done where 89. Okay, I got to get the numbers right. 89% of failed hires were due to culture fit. Right. So I'm doing this video on now what are we going to do with video interviews? But the thing is. So, for example, I have this company where their culture traits are done so well. They're really they're cool, right? They're like, my last company, I'm gonna pull it out right now. Renaissance, we did a great job at this. So it says, like, mistakes happen, own them. Stay positive and persistent in the face of adversity. Experiments with new practices and approaches. Views change as an opportunity. I mean, that's how our values and culture were identified. So here's the deal. In that case, if this person is scared of change, I mean, and honestly, if that person was scared of change and was always kind of like refusing, I mean, those are things. And then there's someone like trust by default, is approachable, focuses on what is right, not who is right. So I think that there may be things like that. Now because it's like that person is always the person that is the follower and not a leader. We need that person there. But I think age is a really big issue. That's a whole nother topic for us, Michael. But I do think there's culture issues.
Yeah. And I mean, even our friend Kathleen says, just like you kind of had the persona, the profile there, she basically speaks to the same thing. And she says, it's really up to recruiters, agency or it's recruiters, to make sure that who they're talking to and who they're presenting to the hiring managers.
Yes. I love Kathleen, by the way. Her and I are like connected.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. No, well,
I mean,
and she says it's up to us as recruiters to determine if that person's going to be the cultural fit. Now, I'm not saying cultures are going to go, oh, I talked to this guy on video. It looked like he had some gray hairs. Probably not a culture. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about is open to change, open to helping others. I talk about this in my job search strategy. What's important to you to have in your next job? And you want to align your values and cultural desires to what your target companies are offering in terms of values and cultural desires. I think that's what Kathleen and you and me we're all saying.
My favorite question to ask, and I've learned I learned so much from it. I ask this question to every person I talk to. What are the top 3 priorities in your next role? And hands down, it's articulated different. One is growth and development, which doesn't mean promotion for everyone. And by the way, if they say promotion, I kind of have a little bit of, I challenge them a little bit on it, right? I got to get through that. And a lot of times they'll say culture. And you know what? I never, ever leave it at that, because I'm like, okay, culture. So I really get them to say, what does it look like, feel like on a daily basis? But I never leave it at culture. So actually one of the things, you can call it culture DNA, but it's like, does the company have it articulated? And actually, for candidates and for leaders, you guys, if your company, that's the number one thing for startups that, some of the really great startups, that's what they do. And actually, so this Benaissance was my company before. And what's great is this was taken from the CEO. He used to always talk about these 3 empowered team players who are resilient. And we literally just took that and kind of brought life to it. And it's been shared with so many. And it's probably one of the things that I'm most proud of, because I brought that CEO and like what the culture of Benaissance was. And that's what you need to be like. If companies talk about culture, try and get them to kind of like, bring it to life. And, that's another thing. I can go into like all these video interviews and everyone's like, hey, make sure your camera's on, right? And make sure your audio's going. It's like, make sure these employers are actually helping you like understand the culture. But all right, I digress. Let's go on to something else.
No, that's good. So Randy Hubbard, thank you, Randy, for tuning in. And this is another question that I get asked so frequently. It's, how do you find a good recruiter? I think that's a legitimate question.
Yeah.
And it's almost impossible to answer unless you have the answer.
Well, I don't have the answer, but I think there are some signs. So, one is, so it is tough because honestly, I know some people that work for some great companies and I'm going, you're so mean. How do you work for that company? I'm like, I'll just be honest with you. But, so I think first of all, you do have to smell out whether they're doing the right thing for you. And,
and how do you do that? How do you do that? Sorry.
So let's talk. Yeah, I know that's okay. I think, I'm assuming sometimes it's like, I don't want to assume these things, but if they tell you only to go with them, don't do that. I think that, if they don't want to, like really understand what's most important to you, there was, sometimes if they're just calling you up to say, what jobs have you applied for? Who have you applied for within the city? Things like that, where you just those are things. If they're a checklist recruiter, which means, well, do you have, this certification? Do you have this and this and this? They are just looking to fill XYZ job. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't have a good job for you, but it depends on what you're, on the other hand, some candidates don't, what do you define as a good recruiter? So for me, this is my style of recruiting. Go ahead, Michael.
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Well, for me, I am very relationship based. Honestly, I feel like I have more recommendations from people that I haven't placed because, they continue to text me and they tell me about other companies that they're interviewing for that I'm not like, they might not be interviewing with through another recruiter, but they're saying, hey, Teresa, I'm interviewing with this company and I have a final with the CEO. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh. And I'm literally excited for them. Because I believe at the end of the day that good things will it's about we're doing the right thing for them. So let's think about this. So how to find the best people? Who adds value? Great people, they add value to other people in general. Are they putting out, good advice to other people? Recommendations are huge. Honestly, I go on Amazon and if a product has crappy recommendations, I don't use it. I do think that is a key. When you get on the phone with them, how much time are they? They don't have to spend a ton of time, but first, the other thing is, what questions are they asking? So here's actually a big thing, I think. So when I recruit, I know the roles really well. Like I go beyond the job description. I don't regurgitate a job description. And I think are they able to really help you understand if you're a true match? And for me, I guess, I don't know. It is tough. I feel like I'm kind of wandering on that one.
You are.
Yeah.
I need you to. I want to bring you back in.
Yeah.
Okay. No. It's cool. It's a hard question to answer.
It is.
I get it. And so, Randy, be patient, but we're going to try and tackle this. So, to me, when you go out and you can look at, I think your point about looking to see, how they're contributing. So, going to LinkedIn and looking at their activity. So once you have their name, and you can just type recruiters in the search feature of LinkedIn, and you can really go through and find out who the top recruiters are, the best recruiters to know. You can Google that and find that. I think to your point
but
about
people make up those lists, and a lot of great recruiters are not on LinkedIn.
I would disagree with that.
I know some that are great. And that they have really big clients. A lot of them are on Facebook though. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I know a couple that are very good that don't do a lot of work on LinkedIn.
Okay. So they can go to Facebook, Instagram, the different
communities.
Yep. And I think asking your network, who they've worked with where they've had a positive experience. Mm-hmm. And you can even test it out let's say you're in a niche, Randy, and you're trying to figure out, I'm going to look to see what your background is. I think you're senior sales and business development professional out of McKinney, Texas, which is a suburb here in Dallas, about 30 minutes to the north. And so there are a lot of people that recruit, when I'm doing searches for companies, sales, marketing, HR, supply chain logistics, your accounting and finance is your specialty, right? Well, so it's
used to be, but yeah.
Right. But you're focusing in on what they're doing. You can go and look up, just look at their bios and see what's going on. I think if you're not open to relocation, you should focus in on your certain geographic area, and then build and then go from there. I think certainly, recruiters that respond to your inquiries of wanting to talk with them, whether, if you email them and say, hey, I'd really like to set up some time. This is what I'm looking for. Whether or not you have anything, I'm trying to connect with recruiters. And if they respond back, they're most likely a good recruiter, because most of the bad recruiters aren't going to respond back to you because, again, if they don't have something for you, they're not paying attention to you. But right now, a lot of agency recruiters and internal recruiters for that matter, there's not that much going on right now. There's a little bit of you're starting to see a little bit of activity, outside of recruiting jobs and HR jobs. So in sales and marketing, you always need sales and business development. You always need those folks. So it's really about just going into something like and if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen here. and show you. Are you okay with this, Teresa?
Yeah, I'm fine.
That you can go into the search bar here, Randy, in LinkedIn. Hopefully, everybody can see the screen, and you can type in recruiter, and then all caps, sales, and then Dallas. And you could do, you could even do McKinney. You can put Dallas; it'll cover everything, right? So if I hit that, what it's going to do is it's going to pull up 24,473 results of different recruiters: sales recruiter at Harness, corporate sales recruiter at RealPage, at Salesforce, the InSource Group, which has been around for a long time here in Dallas, medical sales. I don't know what kind of sales you're in, Randy, but these are the way. This is the ways to do it, and you can even narrow it down by playing here with the filters, right? So the locations, it would be the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You'd hit apply, and I bet that's going to come down to, it came down to 18,000. So before it was pulling all, which is kind of, it could have been Dallas, Georgia, or Dallas. There are other Dallases around the country. But to me, it's just taking a look. And let's say we want to look at, we'll pick on Callie Groshek. Sorry, Callie. What you're going to do is we're gonna go down to activity. And like you said, not everybody's out there, but you can certainly do this on Facebook as well. So you can click activity and look at posts, click posts, and see when the last time that Callie posted out there, which was about a week ago. Why a personal brand matters. And do yourself a favor.
Yeah.
Like, and then comment. Read the article, and you would say something like, "Hey, great post," and then you tag them at Callie Groshek. Now, you're now introducing yourself, and they're going to go, "Oh, I wonder who this is." Oh, it's this Randy guy who I've not met. He's in sales and business development, and he's in, he's a SaaS sales, right? And so Salesforce, being a SaaS-based product, might be a good click for you. So I know that's a lot to throw at you, Randy, but I would say that's as good as I can show you. Teresa, anything else tips and tricks that you would recommend?
No, not around that. No, I mean, I think your point about who's active is really key, and they don't necessarily have to be in recruiting, because I think networking, and recruiters might hate me, but I mean, right now, third-party recruiters are probably not always, depending on the industry, is probably not your number one option to get into a company. And yes, I just said that. My peers are going to hate me, but it's true. I mean, and I just had a gentleman I was working with, and I told him, I said, some of these companies, I said, it just makes more sense for you to apply. And he's a awesome CPG candidate, but he's moving to a different area and not going to be in CPG. So anyways, but with that being said, I think go look at the most active people, because active people mean that they're probably more willing to network. And that's the point about the active people.
Absolutely. So Gabriel Leal, I don't know if you know Gabriel, very good guy. Well, he was on the
Yeah.
Gabriel, he was a guy that, my man
awesome
Gabriel.
Story.
He does. Oh, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely follow Gabriel Leal, Leal. All right. So Gabriel says, and you kind of just alluded to it, what would you suggest to someone waiting or wanting to make a career change in this volatile hiring environment? So let's go back to this guy in consumer products who says, okay, I want to get out of consumer products and I want to do something totally different, maybe not even related to, let's say, sales or to operations, and I want to go from operations to sales or vice versa. What are some of the recommendations you have to changing careers in this crazy job market that we're in right now?
Well, depends if it's going into a needed area. A lot of the experts are saying it's not a great time to do that. And I really think it depends on if it's a needed area, then awesome. I think that if it's something you can do as a side gig, then maybe how can you try and do something on Upwork or as a side gig and do some dollars. And maybe you can start, making yourself as an expert in, creating content, or at least start getting yourself networked in that area. Those would probably be my biggest advice pieces, because it is gonna, it's kind of like my 17-year-old daughter who can't get a job at as a hostess because she's only worked at a daycare center, right? And she's just like so upset. It's like, well, Leah, you don't have experience. So.
Well, and I think that's so Gabriel, you can make a change, but to Teresa's point, it's going to take you a while, a little longer. Number one. Number two, if you're changing occupations, even in a different industry, expect to take a step back in salary. So if you're used to making $120,000 in, I'll use sales, and you want to move to operations doesn't give you the opportunity to make commissions like sales does. So you may have to come down to 75 to 85. And if you're okay with that lifestyle change, that's great. But if you want to stay where you are, it's going to be really hard for you to land a new job in a new position in a different industry or occupation. So it's
network, by the way. Networking is the key, I think, to the, so I had a candidate not too long ago. I'm like, how did you make that move? Because I couldn't believe it. And she's like, someone knew me. She mentioned the person, right? And they knew my talents, because I was like, wow, how did you do that? I want to know your story. And it was really because someone knew that she had that talent, but wasn't hiring by a checklist, which is one of my big things.
Yeah, no doubt. So we've got a couple more questions here, even though we've got about 4 more minutes. So for those recruiters who are employed, what have you seen out there to suggest that they are giving themselves a better reputation than what they had prior to the pandemic?
What were they doing? Internal or external recruiters?
Both. Okay, internal recruiters.
Yeah.
Go.
Well, they need to start doing the new behaviors, right? If they weren't, acting in the previous ways that they obviously know they don't have a good reputation, right? So that's step number one, is knowing that you weren't. I guess I don't know what situation they were in, if it wasn't follow up, if it wasn't branding themselves online well, but it's all about one, maybe ask for feedback from those within the business or peers outside, and then it's acting upon that. I think is the biggest thing. So I guess I'm not quite sure. It's kind of an interesting question, actually. I'd like to know the backstory on it.
Well, because there's this new initiative trying to educate recruiters. This was their, everyone said at the start of the pandemic that for some of the larger companies, HR stood out, and they, performed flawlessly, even though they were going to lose their job after, they helped get, lay off other people.
Yeah.
I know plenty of HR leaders that are, as of May 31st are going to begin a new search.
Yeah.
I don't know if recruiters have stepped up, because I'm still hearing a lot of, they're not responding back. I apply for X number of positions, which is not the way to look for a job. I'm still not hearing from anybody, and it's the same frustration. It's the ghosting and the black hole. I thought we could get rid of it.
Guess what, though? I don't think recruiting is going to get easier internally. You know why? Because this is my thing. Leaders think that we have all these applicants and it's going to be easier. So you know what they did? They got rid of, how many recruiters have lost their jobs? So I'm on a couple of recruiting sites. So, honestly, there's a lot of HR leaders that are not very good at talent acquisition. HR leaders, many of them don't like talent acquisition. They don't want to be in it. That's why so many jobs are outsourced. And I really think that's a huge issue right now. And actually, that's where my focus is going, is like helping companies, their processes before, because talent was so hard to get, they outsourced so many of them. So now they just went from their processes being totally blown up because of COVID, right? Before they outsourced all these roles. And now they lost likely a good portion of their staff. Their processes are all different. And they're
Cutting
lost.
corners. They're cutting corners.
They are. And
The workflows are off, and this is the time. I mean, because you and I, we kind of do the same thing, right? We go in and
Yeah.
consult organizations
Yep.
that really need help, and because we've done it before, and I think processes is huge. I think looking at the tools and technologies, I know that they probably slashed their budgets left and right. So all these sourcing tools and applications that they had is now bare bones minimum. And you know, there's no recruitment, marketing, or branding going on. You know, I still go back to Hilton is probably one of the very few companies that really got it and helped affected employees. They built out their own webpage to help affected employees at Hilton, and that was done from recruiting, not from HR.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I just, it's tough. So I think there are recruiters that are not performing well. I also think there are HR leaders and leaders that are not leading well. And maybe it's because talent acquisition isn't asking for it, but part of me says give some of them grace. The processes internally need so much help. I mean, there are companies that have 300-400 employees and no applicant tracking system. They still post jobs manually in like Excel. I'm like, are you serious?
yeah, there's no applicant tracking, nothing.
It's crazy. So it's tough on the follow-up thing. And I think that if those employers, if you're a talent acquisition leader, I think if you actually did the numbers and helped them see what, you're spending in, whether it's recruiting fees or whatever, it's like, they'd say yes. I honestly, when I've asked for tools and resources in my past, I don't think I've ever been denied from a HR
Right.
standpoint. My leaders are like, oh, so.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, you've been a tremendous guest, and thank you to Kathleen. Thank you to Randy Hubbard. Thank you to Gabe Leal. Did I miss anybody? Nope. Those are the main commenters for today. I think there were some great questions asked. If you want to get in touch with Teresa, you can check out what's scrolling there below us. You can reach out to her directly on LinkedIn or through her website at talentcoinc.com. Teresa, any final thoughts?
Nope. I'm changing my company name from Nordstrom Talent, like literally like this week to Talent Co Inc. So if you see some like, I thought she was this, that's why.
Well, and we've soft launched it here, so
yeah.
I will take all
Way to go, Michael.
residuals will come.
Yeah.
So no, I'm kidding.
No.
Well, but no, you've been a great guest, and I think the insight that we've shared today, hopefully we've helped you understand a little more. There is no magic formula to get recruiters to embrace and love you. It's just a matter of being in front of them and being present, like we've talked about.
And be positive. Yeah. I mean, and
reach out to us.
Honestly, if they're not giving to you and adding value, is that really who you want to be associated with? And build your own brand and network like crazy, and
definitely.
And so, but all right. Well, cool. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah. Thank you. Hang on for a minute. And to my listeners out there, I hope you all have a great weekend. Stay home, stay healthy. Just stay home. Don't go out. And join us Tuesday. We're gonna we have another guest on the LinkedIn Live Lunch Hour, and then on Wednesdays, I'm going to start having job seekers on the show and interviewing them about their job search and job search strategy. So if you're a job seeker and you are looking to, you want to share your story with me, let me know. Just DM me on LinkedIn or send an email to michael@hiringtransform.com. And we can certainly talk about what we're looking for on that show. But join us again next week. Hope you have an amazing weekend, and be well, and we're out.